Hey everyone, it's Alfred here again for the part 2 of the interview here. And Kevin was kind of mentioning about, about the mindset and just kind of overcoming just the two major goals you were mentioning, fear of losing and
Fear of missing out.
I was trying to think about that. But you earlier were mentioning a lot about, mentorship and mindset, which I actually stressed that a lot on my website too. But before we had this interview, you actually also mentioned to me you actually yourself got interviewed too.
Oh, yes.
Can you tell us about a little bit of that experience?
Yeah, sure. For whatever reason, everybody just seemed to notice that I was getting some success. Because I was very, at the time, when I became fairly good at trading fairly quickly.
Yeah.
People noticed that, and then I also kind of got, I guess I would say I was not very humble about it, right?
Yeah.
But because of that, word kind of spread out on how good I was doing, right?
Yeah.
I created guides of my trading methods and put them up on the internet, right? So people could copy that, and people were getting some success out of that. So
nice. I
gained some popularity kind of pretty quick.
Yeah.
In the group I was trading with.
Yeah.
And they have a website called TraderInterviews.com, which was something when I first got into trading. I said one day I'm going to be, in that, one of those guys, right? Because I was learning from those people. When I first got into trading, my strategy was, okay, I'm just going to copy whatever the successful people are doing. Right?
Yeah.
So what I did is I listened to all the interviews of all the top traders around the world, right?
Right.
And trying to look at what similarities and what were the differences, what really made them successful, and how I can kind of copy that, right?
Of course, yeah.
So, so I got asked to be interviewed.
Yeah.
I said, you want to be on the TraderInterviews.com, right?
Yeah.
They said, you're kind of like the main guy around here, right?
Yeah.
So, they chose me. I was very fortunate to be chosen. At the time, I still think I was very, very new. You can listen to it. My trader name was 3 Clips.
Yeah.
And I was still, when I was doing the interview, I was fairly new. I didn't even know what was on my charts half the time,
Yeah.
but I was making money with it.
Yeah.
And the interview, it was nice to have the opportunity to do so, because it kind of showed that you don't have to be a genius to to make some money there. So I kind of gave people a lot of hope, because I didn't sound like a really knowledgeable professional. Right?
Yeah.
I just told them what I was doing to make money.
Yeah.
And they let me they let me be on the interview. At first, I thought I didn't really deserve it.
Yeah.
Because I just didn't feel I was at the level that all the other people that were interviewed were at. Right.
Right.
So maybe I just didn't have the self-confidence at the time.
Yeah.
But for whatever reason, I guess because I was giving other people success.
Yeah.
Right. That meant something completely different to people, and that's why I was appointed. Because it's one thing if you're successful.
Yeah.
But it's another thing if you make other people successful. That's when your reputation really starts flying.
Right.
Like my other friend who taught me trading.
Right.
He was very successful because he was making a lot of people a lot of money.
Right.
And especially in this field.
Yeah.
If you can make people money in something where most people aren't making any money at all,
yeah,
you're like a god to them.
That makes sense. Yeah. It's very difficult to start and everything.
Yeah.
So you mentioned you got the interview, but how about did it come? Did you just apply to it, or did someone kind of?
It totally came to me.
It
just totally came to me.
Or
I just got asked, "Is like,
oh really
want
nice.
to be interviewed on TraderInterviews.com?" And I says, well, "What an honor! Yeah, definitely."
Yeah.
Right?
That's hilarious. And you mentioned
it just kind of came to me.
Just came to me. Well, that's great. But you did mention about you had your name 3 Clips. How did you come up with that then? Or did someone give it to you, or did you come up with that yourself?
It's sort of just been my nickname for everything. Like I always liked the Mitsubishi Eclipse.
Oh, hilarious!
And Eclipse was taken.
Yeah.
So I put a 3 in it. And before I knew it, that was kind of my username. But the thing was, in my trading methods, I used the number 3 was very significant in it.
Okay.
So it happened to be a very, very good name. For my style of trading, right?
Oh, that's hilarious.
Because a lot of my trading was the number 3. Number 3 became very significant.
Oh, really?
And I don't know if it was because of my name or whatever, but whatever happened, it was never intended to be meaningful. That was just the nickname that I liked, right? Yeah. You know, some people like Supra Boy, or you know, like I'm a car guy, right? Yeah. So I had, you know, the name Three Clips in my name, and
it just happened to
it just happened to be the name that grew in popularity, and
that's hilarious.
yeah. So there was really nothing significant about trading for that. It just kind of became something after I got a reputation.
Well, sounds good. Because a lot of things you actually mentioned kind of overlaps, and I'm sure that does with a lot of people. Like, a lot of things you mentioned overlaps with a lot of attributes and things that occur with a lot of, you know, successful entrepreneurs. Mm-hmm. So, for someone who's kind of starting out, I know, like, you know, Forks is like a really large area, mm-hmm. but what would be some of the tips or just general advice you would advise someone just to be successful in general?
In general?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, the first thing I would have to say is that there's a lot of stuff out there that talks about positive mindset.
Okay.
Or perseverance or things like that.
Yep.
But there's one thing that I find that is missing from that, right?
Yeah.
That could totally throw that out the window. So you could be working really hard, as positive as you want, you know, you can do whatever you want, but if you're not doing it right, you're not going to get anywhere.
That's right, for sure.
You know, it doesn't matter how positive you are.
Right.
So, while being upbeat and persevering and never giving up is very, very key, right?
Yeah.
You have to make sure you're doing the right things. And the only way you can figure out what is right is to usually go through things that aren't right.
No,
so you have to expect failure along the way.
Yeah.
You have to figure out in whatever field you're doing how usually not to make money in order to find out how to make money.
That makes sense. Right? To avoid those, yeah.
That's right. So and I find that it kind of empowers you to know that, because if you expect failure, right, then when it comes to, okay, that's just part of the process. Right. And that's what empowered me very much through my path. It's just part of the process, right?
Right. Yeah.
Or some other people, you know, they're upbeat and stuff, and you know that might wither away as they get more failures. And usually when at the point where they hit their biggest failure, their biggest success is usually not too far away.
Yeah.
So that's one thing I gotta say, is that you have to make sure that you do things right, but not only to get to there.
Yeah.
You have to do usually a lot of things first wrong, or try a lot of different things, right?
Of course.
But in order to find something right, you have to follow the people that are doing it right.
Yeah.
So don't really follow somebody that, you know, that's maybe just doing it because. You have to find somebody that is making money, that will kind of take you by the hand, right? And will teach you, because there's absolutely no way I would be able to make a living with trading if it weren't for my mentor. Yeah. Absolutely no way.
Right.
And even today, right now, where I'm at right now, I'm constantly referring to him, and he's constantly helping me improve. So you absolutely need somebody that is doing what you want to do, right? And that is making a living with it in the way that you want to do it.
For sure.
Because I find you can't really do it. You can't do it on your own. No matter how many books you read or whatever.
Yeah.
You can, like, while that helps, you gotta have somebody that's in your field. Yeah. Right. Teaching you how to do, or teaching you the tricks of the trade, because they're gonna show you what is right. Right.
Well, for sure. And I guess with them, like, just like you mentioned, you touched a lot of key points. Since they help guide you, it's like it helps pretty much accelerate your success. Like you mentioned, I mean, I wouldn't say it's impossible, but it makes it a lot more difficult. So why not just get a mentor and make it, I guess, a lot less frustrating during that whole path, right? Yeah. Because like I said, just like you mentioned, right, they've been through it all, right? So they've already been through all the failures. So with that being said, they can help you avoid most of them probably. Mm-hmm. And if you do get into it, I guess, run into any failures, they can, you know, help you kind of go around it, so to speak.
Yeah. And another important thing I find is that you need to be able to track. And some people, they just work hard at something. Okay. And they don't really track how they're doing. Right? Okay. And either that's because I got it in my head that, like, I know what I'm doing, right? Like, I don't have to track everything. Right. But I find when you track things, you can really see how well you're doing, because your mind can kind of play tricks on you. Okay. You can think you're working hard, but you're not really working hard. You can think you're doing well, but you're not really doing well. Right. Right. Especially when you think positive, that could also be seen as sometimes delusional, right? Because you think, hey, I'm doing well, but you look at the numbers. How really well are you doing? Right. Right. You know, T. Harv Eker, I don't know if you heard of him. He's famous for the Millionaire Mind. He always says, You want to know how well you're doing at your profession? Look at your paycheck. That will tell you how good you are, right?
Yeah.
So, in order for you to do that, you gotta track. But when you track yourself, right?
Yeah.
Even if you don't have just like a coach, but if you have a mentor, somebody taking you along the way, they might not be tracking you, but if you take it on yourself to track your success, like let's say if you're doing a network marketing business, right?
Yeah.
You're gonna track how many people that you spoke to, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Or how many leads or how many business members that you took on, how many customers you signed up, right?
Yeah.
How much money you made other people. Like, you got to keep track of that. If you're in the internet marketing, you need to keep track of things like how many people are coming to your website, right? What was the increase of last month?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
What that's how you improve your conversion rates. Right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's the same thing in trading. Is you got to keep track of what was your success rate with this, right? How much did you earn last month? What happens if you adjust this thing? And the only way that you can really see how to get better is by looking at the numbers, because the numbers will tell you.
Right.
So I find people that don't track, right, and they don't deal with numbers. They just kind of just do something, and they think, okay, as long as I work at this, then it will eventually go, right? It will eventually take off. Well, that might be true to some point, right?
Yeah.
In my experience, in my opinion, I've seen that the people that really take off are the ones that track.
Yeah.
And then improve on those numbers constantly.
That makes sense. Yeah, improving things at work. Yeah. Yeah. That makes sense.
Because they'll tell you what needs to be fixed. How well you're doing.
Yeah.
And that will help you also discover new things too. Because when you say, oh, okay, well, last month I did this, and this month it does better. Oh, well, what did I do differently? There's no way you can do that just in your head by just working at something, right?
Yeah, for sure.
So this is the importance of journaling, tracking.
Yeah.
Right? And above all, when you do get that success, or even if you do get a failure, see it as a gift or of a message to improve, right?
Right.
And whatever success you get, always remain humble about it, because you never know when it's going to go away.
Yeah.
I learned a lesson, like I said, when I first started trading. When success came to me very quick, I became very, I was not very humble with it.
Yeah.
And it actually left me. There was a time where I went down after. It took me a while to get back. So I realized that you need to remain humble with whatever you get.
Yeah.
And when you leave that place, you better make sure you get back to it, because it usually means something's coming. Yeah. Because when you remain humble, you remain open to new possibilities, right? Right. You're not going to say, oh, my thing's better, your thing's not, or I know everything, that sort of thing, right? Yeah. And that's what I find is the difference between, if you look at people that are successful in their field and stay there, versus the people that are successful only for a period of time.
That makes sense,
right? And they don't stay there. Yeah. Because I was successful at one point, and then I fell after that. I had a really big downturn for at least maybe 6 months, right, before I got myself back up. Yeah. And then I learned I learned to be humble about my success. Nice. Yeah.
That makes sense. Well, I think Kevin here definitely touched a lot of points that I think all of us would agree on, and a lot of points that even I cover on my website too. Well, below on this post, I'll leave a lot of links with Kevin and all his 2% Club and all that. And of course, guys, if there's any further comments or questions, definitely feel free to comment below. Thanks so much.
Thank you all.
For sure, Kevin.